Hello, I'm Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for May 11th to May 17th of 2014. Human design is a synthesis of four ancient wisdom systems as a bridge to understanding our potential to discover our path to making decisions that are correct for us as individuals. And those traditions are astrology, the I Ching, and the Hindu Brahman chakra system, and the Kabbalistic tree of life. So let's take a look at how these systems work together. We start by looking at the sun, the moon, the nodes, the earth, and the planets in the wheel, much like we would in astrology, except instead of looking at them as they relate to zodiological constellations or to each other by the angles that we make, we look at them in relation to the hexagrams of the I Ching, which are these stacks of lines on the outside of the wheel. And then those are mapped to specific locations inside of the body graph. The shapes inside the body graph are called centers. They represent the next stage of our evolution from having 7 chakras to now having 9 centers, coincidental to Herschel's discovery. So the mutation occurring in 1781, when Herschel had discovered the planet Uranus was that year as well. And then the pathways between the centers are called channels. They come from the Kabbalah. These black strips of paper here represent gates that are being activated by the sun, the planets, the earth, and the nodes. I'm actually not going to be following the moon in this demonstration because it really moves very, very quickly. And it can activate up to between 3 and 4 gates in a single day. So it would just turn this presentation into a several-hour affair. So I'm just going to stick with some of the slower moving celestial bodies. Anyway, we start out. We've got the sun. It's in the 23rd hexagram, which we can see this right here in the chart. We have the sun here. It's in Taurus in the 23rd hexagram. This gets mapped to a specific location in the body graph, being the 23rd gate right up here. And this is the gate of assimilation, splitting apart, amorality, the awareness and understanding which leads to the acceptance of diversity is located in the throat center, in an individual energy path in the knowing circuit, and called the channel of structuring a design of individuality, where it connects up to the 43rd gate of insight, breakthrough. And I found human design to be so amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. We have the following activated gates on May 11th. Like I said, we have the sun in the 23rd. We have the earth is in the 43rd along with retrograde Saturn. And then we have the north node is in the 50. The south node is in the 3. Mercury is in the 16th gate of skills. Venus is in the 17th gate of opinions. Uranus is in the 21st gate. We have Jupiter in the 53. Neptune is in the 37, and Pluto is in the 38th gate. And retrograde Mars, I think I forgot to mention that, is in the 48th gate. So obviously not every gate activation is forming a channel, but this information can be really helpful if you know your human design chart, because some of these transits form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And you can get your human design chart by going to jovianarchive.com, click on the button that says get your free rave chart, and then just enter in your birth information. And basically this neutrino forecast is just a weather report. So no matter what the weather is, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have when to have an authentic experience, regardless of whatever's going on in the program. As Ross said so eloquently, whatever the weather's going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And as we begin the week, we have 2 channel definitions. We have Mercury in the 16, we have Mars in the 48, It gives us the channel of the wavelength, the design, the talent. It's with us just for that first day of the week. This is a collective logic channel, which is for those folks who have this in their chart, is about reaching some level of mastery through practice and repetition. The channel is also about caring skills. But given that it's really been just a short period of time for this channel, just 2 days, I think, that it was defined, from last week into this week by the program, that it's hard to really consider how this would affect people, because it really is about repetition that happens over a long period of time, making gradual improvements. Collective logic creativity, though, is different than individual creativity in that the collective logic is creativity that's earned through hard work, through commitment, and it's shared with the collective, whereas the individual creativity is about empowerment in the now. For those of us who don't have this have splenic definition, Ra actually talked about the fact that when there is when the program is defining the splenic center, that people who don't have that in their natal chart might let go of something that actually is good for them when this transit is defining the splenic center. So we also have the 4323 channel of structuring, freak to genius, and that's with us until May 15th. This is about individuals having an amazing insights that require 2 conditions to be fulfilled to be recognized by others. First, the person who has an epiphany needs to wait to be invited to share his or her insight, because this is, after all, it's a projector channel. And the second thing is that they're going to need to be able to explain their idea like in a step-by-step process, so the audience can methodically understand how this quantum leap was arrived at. But most likely this is going to be a time period when people are just going to blurt out whatever's on their mind. So I expect we're going to encounter more freaks than geniuses during the beginning of the week. And then so we're going to be looking at the sun's Ravi Ching line values, because 70% of the neutrinos that we receive here on the Earth come through the sun. And as Ra Uru said in Design Perspectives number 56 in his presentation called Living with the Program with Ra Uru, the lines of the day, when he was talking about these lines shifts values, he said that, and this is a quote, "We can take advantage of the themes of the day." Obviously, if your strategy and authority is not leading you in that direction, you can just kind of use this information to notice how the program is affecting others that are in your environment. So let's get started. May 11th, we have the sun right at the beginning of the day. It's in the second line. It's in the hermit line of the 23rd hexagram. The sun in the 23-2 is described as self-defense, the need to abandon tolerance when survival is threatened, exalted the principle of preservation at its most acute, the abandonment of tolerance when individual expression is threatened, detrimented, satisfaction with just protecting oneself by fending off hostility, the defense of individual expression in the face of hostility. And Ra talked about in Living with the Program, he talked about the second line days. Everybody's waiting for something. They're waiting to be called. They're stuck in their own trip. So it's really not a great day to have a big party, because no one's going to really want to come. So, but that's really early in the day, because later on the 11th, the sun moves into the third line, the line of the martyr, again, still 23rd hexagram, where it's exalted, and the shift happens at 8:39 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. All the times I'm going to be giving you are going to be Eastern Daylight, so you want to convert them to your local time zone. And the 23rd hexagram, third line, is individuality. It's an independent expression that is not by its nature detrimental to others, exalted vitality and personal power that can engender jealousy but not threat. Individual expression which attracts attention but not threat. Again, so Third line days, these are, Ra talks about being careful on the road, being careful swinging doors. It's a day where we might have bonds made and broken. Third line days are about trial and error, and you bump into things. It's a good material day. It's a good day to do business and work on the material plane, but you have to be careful because things can go wrong. Think, a system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. Um, Bonds made and broken, trial and error process are all those themes that we associate with the third line. Also on the 11th, Venus moves out of the 17th gate and it moves into the 21 where it joins Uranus. And retrograde Mars leaves the 48 here, and it backs into the 18th gate. So the definition of the splenic center is no longer part of our experience. So let's talk about it. Venus, very powerful, deeply misunderstood, according to Ra. It brings morality, natural law, in which we deal with the other, the consequences of the world around us. What disturbs you on a moral level? Your design and personality Venuses tell you about a moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life. If you don't act with moral clarity, Venus can be unkind in its retribution. And then, so let's think about it. In the 21, Venus it's in the gate of the hunter, the huntress, fighting through the justified and necessary use of power in overcoming deliberate and persistent interference. Venus is in the 21-1 as warning, the use of force as a last resort, exalted the willpower and ego to ensure respect. Detrimented is a lack of willpower that is forced to ask for respect. Also on the 11th, retrograde Mars, moving from the 48 down to into the 18th gate of correction. Work on what's been spoiled. The vigilance and determination to uphold and defend basic and fundamental human rights. It's exalted in the 6th line because, of course, we're backing into it from being as retrograde. So Mars, Ra talks about Mars as an extraordinary and immature energy source that lacks refinement and is subject to outbursts. Mars represents the warrior archetype. By following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine the energy of our design and personality. Mars is from immaturity to wisdom. Because Mars appears to be retrograde from our perspective here on Earth, it enters in at the 6th line at the roof of the 18th hexagram. In Buddhahood, the perfected form exalted the Buddha state of the eternal child and the energy to find new horizons to avoid stasis, the potential of the perfected form through correction. And then the 12th, the sun moves into the 4th line of the 23rd hexagram. So we're up here, we're in the line of the opportunist. The shift happens at 7:57 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun is exalted and detrimented. Okay, so naturally the sun is exalted in the 23rd hexagram, so that's the upward pointing arrow in the 4th line, and it's detrimented because it's connected to the Earth in the 43rd hexagram in the 4th line as well. So what we see if you look at the just now chart is it looks like a 6-pointed star when you look at the 23rd hexagram 4. And it's described as fragmentation, diversification without perceived potential for synthesis, exalted fatalism and egoism, and damn the consequences, individual expression that has no collective value, detrimented atheism and paranoia, individual expression that engenders isolation and fear. And 4th line days, we're moving from the 3rd line, the lower trigram up to the upper trigram. So we're moving out of more of a personal process to more of a transpersonal process. Um, so and so it's more of looking outward, and the themes we encounter are friendship and companionship and networking. Fourth line days are about social interaction, and people are more open to networking and being friendly and social. And then May 13th, the sun moves into the fifth line. So now we're moving into the line of the heretic. Again, 23rd hexagram. The shift happens at 7:16 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 23.5 is described as assimilation, the practical acceptance of the value of another path, exalted expansion and contribution through assimilation, the gift of communicating individual insight to the collective, detrimented, motive-driven assimilation from an inferior position, i.e., protection for protection or for nourishment, motive-driven assimilation for acceptance and protection from the collective. Fifth line days, again, we're into heretic, so this is about the energies that has this quality of suspicion, but it's also universalization, where something leaks out and it spreads very rapidly, maybe like a YouTube video that suddenly there's millions of viewings, or a Facebook post that goes viral. But there's a great deal of suspicion and paranoia associated with fifth line energy and fifth line days, so this can impact the nature of relationships. Also, projection and seduction are themes of fifth line days. Also on the 13th, Mercury moves from the 16th gate over to, this is going to work. All right, so now that's moved over to the 35th gate. So we're moving from a collective logic channel to a collective abstract gate. So Mercury, messenger of the gods. It's about communication. It's about expansion in human consciousness through communication. It's not just about words, but also about music. If you listen to Ra's description of Mercury, what do we need to communicate in this life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. So what might be communicated with Mercury over here in the 35? Probably interaction to bring about change. It's the gate of change and progress by design. Progress cannot exist in a vacuum, but is dependent upon interaction. Mercury in the 35-1 is humility, the ability to accept rejection, exalted, the artist that accepts rejection as part of the process, acceptance of change and rejection as part of the process. Detrimented, a self-destructive reaction to rejection, a loss of worth, change and rejection as humiliation. And then on the 14th, the sun moves into the sixth line. So we're at the roof of the hexagram here in the role model line of the 23rd hexagram. And this shift happens at 6:35 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 23.6 is fusion, the gradual attunement of diversity through synthesis, exalted, the exponential growth of energy and its power of assertion engendered by fusion, individual knowing that brings diversity to synthesis. Detrimented, it's the principled but futile withdrawal from fusion that leads to atrophy. Individual knowing that holds on to diversity and loses its power in expression. So, sixth line day, Ra talks about not having your head stuck in the clouds, because you'll end up with something banging into your kneecaps. It's a day where there's a lack of focus of what's going on around you, because folks are looking beyond their immediate environment. And like a third line day, there might be certain dangers of not seeing a car coming, maybe not seeing a bill coming. And then on the 15th, the sun moves from the 23rd gate to the 8. And the Earth moves from the 43rd gate, but we still have Saturn there. It moves down here into the 14, which means that this defined Ajna center and throat center are no longer part of the transit field. So let's see, we've got the Earth moving from the 43 to the 14. This is the gate of power skills, possession in great measure. This shift happens at 5:55 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We've got the Sun in the 8th gate of contribution, holding together the basic worth realized in contributing individual efforts to group goals. The Sun in the 8-1 of honesty, truthful acceptance of limitation, and recognition that can only be transcended through sharing. Exalted the awareness that the whole is always greater than the sum of the parts, knowing that creative expression must be honestly communicated and shared. Detrimented, it's withdrawal, it's the fear of losing individuality in a group environment. The design to share creativity at the expense of individuality. And now that we're in a new hexagram, we're down in a lower trigram here. And so first, second, third line days, this is people who are more looking inward. They're absorbed in their own process. The theme of the first line day, the investigator, is that we have fear, we have anxieties that need to be investigated. It's a day to study, maybe not to act. It's a day to look into things. It's a good day to deal with things you just don't understand, to make sense of something you don't know. And then on the 16th, the Sun moves into the second line. So now it's up here in the line of the Hermit. We're still in the 8th hexagram. And the Sun is exalted in the second line of the 8. This shift happens at 5:16 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Sun in the 8-2 is described as service, exalted the highest good to serve selflessly, the potential to bring an example through unselfish expression. And like I talked about earlier, second line days, people are waiting for something. They're waiting for the call. They're stuck in their own trip. So it's not a great day to have a party, let's say. And then we have Venus moving here. And it's moving out of the 21 and into the 51. Uranus is still in the 21. In human design, Ra describes Venus as being very powerful and a deeply misunderstood energy. It brings morality, natural law, in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us. What disturbs you on a moral level? Your design and personality Venuses will tell you about the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life. If you do not act with moral clarity, Roth says that Venus can be really unkind in its retribution. In the 51, Venus is about the morality of shock, the arousing, the ability to respond to disorder and shock through recognition and adaptation. Venus is detrimented in the first line of the 51, which is reference the advantage of previous crisis experience. Detrimented, it's a tendency to emotional withdrawal after a shock, the weakness in times of challenge. And then the 17th, we have the Sun moving into the third line. So now it's in the line of the martyr. Again, we're still talking about the 8th gate, 8th hexagram. The shift happens at 4:37 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And the 8-3 is the phony, the acceptance of style and not the substance of of communal actions. Exalted, the perfected and rarely detected superficial intimacy. The example as an expression of style, not substance. Detriment, a shallowness that underestimates others and overestimates its ability to continue its deception without detection, and overall an unfounded confidence in style. Third line days, again, be careful on the roads, be careful what's going on in your environment. It's a day where we have bonds made and broken, a trial and error process where things might even bump into you. It's a good material day, a good day to do business and work on the material world. But, again, be careful that because things can go wrong, but the purpose of these things going wrong are to lead to discovery. And also on the 17th, Mercury moves from the 35 and into the 45. So put that there. And so with this shift, we have the throat center defined, and we have the ego center being defined by the transit field. So again, we talked about Mercury being the messenger of gods. It's about communication. So what are we communicating? What are we likely to hear people communicating when Mercury's in the 45? Well, they're being attracted to similar forces. This is the gate of gathering together, the natural and genetically beneficial attraction to like forces. Mercury in the 45-1 is canvassing, exalted, the ability to promote and develop gathering together through education of the uncommitted. Material direction lies in education. A detriment, an overzealousness that turns canvassing into proselytization. The tendency to alienate rather than gather support. A drive for material that leads to aggressive education. And with Mercury in the 45 and Uranus in the 21, we have the channel of the money line. It's tribal, so it's about resources and the support of the family and those people that, even if they're not your blood, they're part of your tribe, they're part of your extended family. So this could condition folks to try and gain resources through their willpower, often without others to collaborate with. This can bring forces, a focus on who are the haves and who are the have-nots on the material plane. This is a time period where people will believe that they can manifest through their will, but it completes on May 21st when Mercury then moves into the 12th gate. So folks who have not completed their will to materialism by that date will find that they're going to fall short on those efforts if they don't have this in their actual rave chart, their natal rave chart. So this week we're still moving through the 2nd, the 23rd, and the 8th, and then next week we'll get to the 20th hexagram. These are all gates that are associated with the Maya god's head. Like I said last week, Maya is the eldest of the 7 sisters, the Pleiades of Greek mythology. She's identified with the italic goddess of spring. The month May was named after her. When the sun entered into the 2nd hexagram, we began the quarter of civilization in the most yin location in the wheel. So this is about the feminine. This is about the mother, the birth of civilization emerging from the womb. We're still talking about the program. So it's really about the mind's interpretation of what the form should be doing in order to survive. The quarter of civilization is described as going from womb to room, and Maya is the bringer of a spring, and it's all about the bounty, the goddess who bestows the qualities of civilization. But the work is up to the female. The work is up to the form. This becomes a distortion that becomes the patriarchy, as the mind believes that it controls the form, and the civilization brings the belief that males are going to control females. But Maya really is about direction education, and explanation that children need in order to survive. Um, so basically, no matter how these energies are affecting you, conditioning you, working with you, just remember that this is an experience of being a passenger that's riding in a vehicle that's being driven by the magnetic monopole. So just enjoy the scenery, whatever's going by, and let the vehicle take you where it needs to go by following your strategy and authority. Because every single day we have really is a blessing, uh, no matter what dramas beckon to distract us. I think we're all here just giving the performance of our lifetime on the world stage. Just take some time out to observe the play, watch the scenery go by, observe what's happening in your movie, as well as acting in your part by remembering you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. Our next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be on May 18th. It should be available by the 17th, when we will continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, and YouTube. All those places have New World Birth pages. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as texts as widely as you choose. I'm going to be discussing the transits of June 2014 and providing some short 10 to 15 minute human design readings to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebels show on Truth Frequency Radio on Monday, June 2nd. The show is from 1 to 3. I come on about 1:30, again, Eastern Daylight Time. I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com. If you have any questions or you wish to schedule a reading, the readings I do are usually between 2 and 3 hours. They're really dense. A lot of information shared, just like we've shared a lot of information in the video here, except the information is going to be all about you. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You're going to need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect on Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available if you want to support us here at New World Birth. Great way to support us, get a reading, and then you've got all that to go with as well. As always, I am blessed that you've taken your time out to connect with my passion for all these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. In Lakesh, as Ra would say, love yourself. And thanks again for being here and being part of this experience. And I look forward to connecting with you either on the radio show or in another future video or a reading or on Facebook or wherever. But again, many, many thanks and all my best to everybody.